Good day, everyone. We're here today again for the next lesson. As regards to research methodology, a recap of what we did last week. We introduced research methodology and described it. We give the concepts. Today, we are now moving on to the details of chapter 4, chapter 5, reference and abstracts. We are doing this in such a way that you're able to do your research work very well. At the end of it, you're able to carry out your research work and do it effectively. Research methodology, as we described, is systematic steps you need to follow to write your research work. So without wasting much of our time, quickly go to what we call chapter 4 has to do with data presentation and data analysis. In that chapter, you have the subheadings of 4.1 as data presentation, 4.2 data analysis, 4.3 have it as results and conclusion, then 4.4 discussion of the results and findings. Move to chapter 5, you have chapter 5, you have summary of findings, conclusion and recommendation. Then you have summary of the findings 5.1, 5.2 conclusion, 5.3 recommendation, 5.4 contribution to knowledge, 5.5 suggestions or suggested areas for further studies. Then the next thing that follows it is the reference. After the reference, you have the appendix. Then in all these things that make up a whole work of research, which you write very well. Then you go to abstracts. The first thing that we look at is abstract. Why I didn't start with the abstract is because when you have finished all your work, then the abstract is the summary of the entire work. Because if I start telling you about the abstract, because it comes at the first page before the content of the, so it comes before you see the chapter 1, chapter 2. We can't talk about it. Its abstract is the summary of your work from chapter 1 to the end, chapter 5. So in that abstract, you discuss what you did in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and your recommendations. All this is what is going to go in abstract. The abstract has to be in italics. The font size has to be 12, and it has to be no line spacing in abstract when you are writing abstract. At this level, your abstract should not be less than 150 words. 150 words is minimum, not fewer than 150 words. You're able to write your abstract in a good way by doing the introduction, talking about the subject, set of the problem in that abstract, then telling us what is the test statistics, the objective, the hypothesis founded and tested, research questions, everything concerning the work is there. That is the abstract for you. Then now we go into the details of what we talk about chapter 4, data presentation. When you want to present your data, you either present it in sentence or in tables, but preferably in tables. That tables will help you depict all the figures you have easily to be in rows and columns. The rows will tell you the description of what you are doing, while the columns give you equally the headings. Then you put in your figures, and that's presentation of the data. As you get to the presentation, at the bottom of that, you have the total of your numeric values of what you're analyzing. If you are using mean, because at the earlier stage I say you have to be very good in Excel. As soon as you use the Excel to put it, you get the whole thing, then you'll be able to get the total mean, even variance or standard deviation as the case may be. So if you are in the column side, you get it the rows and columns, everything is summed immediately automatically with Excel if you know it very well. That gives you an opportunity to get what you know. Even if somebody is going to analyze it with eView or SSP, but he knows that this is what you are doing. You know, you're able to be on top of the game. You have it at the tip of your fingers that this is what is exactly what you need to do. That's data presentation. And the bottom of that data table, you put source. The source, if it's extracted from a given point or from any source or author, you quote the author or the source of that document. And the date of that is very important so that someone can reference that is verifiable. And that when we are talking about smarts, you'll now see that it's specific. The source of that is specific. You can verify it. Somebody can go and see it and carry out, see, oh, this is actually what it did. But if not, if you are using questionnaire and your tables were collected, you can now see author's compilation. You code the date. The date you compile that, date is very important. That date means the year of your compilation. If you are compile something as you are writing this research work this year, you quote author's compilation, don't quote your name, quote author's compilation 2020. That is the way you can put the tables. Then after putting all the data as regards to objective number 1, objective number 2, objective number 3, objective number 4, in this research work, you are expected to have a minimum of 4 objectives. When you, from this objective is where you're now drawing these tables and putting the data you collected by questionnaire or observed method or interview method. We are going to discuss all those ones later, but I'm telling you what you need, what chapter 4 is involved. Not when you just jungle everything, you copy and paste, you move on, expect your supervisor to read and pass. No, you have to follow the steps. That's why we are doing it, so that you know exactly what you need. You are expected to do in chapter 4, expected to do in chapter 5. These are the things. After doing all these things, now we go in details of what is involved and show you in Excel how you can analyze the data. These are the things we do. We tell you how to test your hypothesis too, and how to reject or accept your work. If you set up a hypothesis, you're able to accept or reject based on your calculation from that. So offline, we give you a clear description of it, but online, we can show you in Excel as time comes on. We move on with this. So that's data presentation. Then you move on to analysis of data. If you are using T distribution, students T distribution, you make sure that you have the T table, you have a photocopy of that, or you go to the Excel. From the formulas, you get it direct from the cell, but you ensure that you get the right formula. The T table, you get those things, and you have at 0.05 significant level. You are going to be explained and tell you what is the meaning of significant level and confidence level. So when you test at 0.5 level of significance, you know the value. So if the critical value is greater than the calculated value, you'll be able to reject or accept the hypothesis. That's how you do it. Then you test the hypothesis. Testing the hypothesis about, you said you now set up a hypothesis that P or mu means mean. X bar is expressed as mu. Mu or mean is equals to 0. That means you are saying that there's no significance. Then the alternative will be saying there is significance. So you are trying to, when you work on these things, you get an answer. Based on the answer you have with a normal distribution, you check at 5% significant level. This value, is this higher than the critical value? If it's higher than critical value, what do? Either you reject or you accept. That's the point of testing the hypothesis. So as you're testing the hypothesis, you have it in mind or before you that this is at 5% level of significance, I'm going to reject the hypothesis if it's greater or if it's not equal to, depending on your statement is greater, less than, or equal to. These three statements has to be there. When you state your hypothesis, you'll be looking at these things as you are testing your hypothesis, so that any value you get based on the analysis is will now compel you either to reject or to accept the hypothesis. That's how you move on. From there, you have solved all the problems in chapter 4. Then you now state the results. The result of hypothesis of objective 1 says that you reject. You say the reasons why you reject. That after doing chapter 1, objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, and objective 4, stating them and concluding the results you have gotten, you conclude on this is these are the reasons why you're able to get these things. That is conclusion. Then you start discussing this result. Based on the result you have, you discuss on these results and the findings, because from the analysis, the data you gathered, numerical data you gathered, you're able to say, this is the reason why you reject this. This is why I reject this. Therefore, this should be done, and this is not should be done. That's exactly what is expected in chapter 4, discussion of the results and findings. When you finish that, you go to the summary of the findings. You summarize those things you have said in discussion and findings, you summarize them, then you conclude. When you conclude, you now recommend what is from your research work. What you have written up is this. You'll be able to conclude on all those things, recommend, then contribution to the knowledge. You now talk about these things that I have done. At the earlier stage, you say that if there's no problem, there's no point writing research. Research is always about to solve problem. Organized inquiry providing you a way of solving problem. So if you look at these things now, this research you have done has contributed to the knowledge. It helps to expose you to certain things which you don't know. And whoever reads this thing now, it will contribute to the person's knowledge. Because you say knowledge is power. You didn't know it before, but now you have known that with this result you have done a good result, and this will be able to tell you that this is this. Okay, let me give you an example. If a massive company want to try the production of a given drug, they can't say anything until they're able to get results. Based on that result, they will say that this drug, the efficacy of this drug is significant and it can cure malaria. It can cure this. But if you did not carry out a research and get this result, you can't quote authoritatively that this drug can cure this disease. It's based on the experimental research they have done, carry out all this research, and initially at the back of their mind, they said, this may cure this result if it's like this. Why is it that when they test you for malaria or typhoid, if the titer is 80 and above, they say you have, it's significant. There's typhoid in you. These are for the lab scientists. When you go for the lab test for typhoid or malaria, for typhoid, as soon as you have a range of 80 and above or 160, you say you have typhoid in your body and need to be treated, and you have to be recommended for a drug. Do you see now? They did it scientifically in their own way, but you, as the writing a research, you test the hypothesis. Those lab scientists are testing the hypothesis in their own way by carrying out a lab reagent, do all those things, and get a result and say, based on this result, you have typhoid. But if it's below 80, you don't have typhoid. Therefore, we have to go for further investigation to know what's happening to you. This is an example. Then we move into what we call the references. These references comes at the end of the whole chapter. I don't want to talk at reference at the initial stage. I was telling you in text citations. So in referencing, what are we talking about? Referencing means you refer to the author because you are not a bundle of knowledge. Because as you are writing this right, you are going to take care of all the things others have written, the theory, the theories you have, the expectations, the empiricals, the concepts others has written. Don't say that no research has been written. You are the bundle of knowledge. You are the first person to write it. No, those research has been written somewhere, either in part or in full or in different regions. Just go to the website, you see a similar thing. That's why you need to reference something. So if you use a textbook, you reference that textbook, reference the author, quoting the author in a given paragraph. As we are talking about the global aspect of it, holistically, this research is talking about this. How do you talk about holistically? Is it just from your brain? It's from the book you read, from the articles you read, journals you read. You see what happens over the world, and that makes you to go into saying holistically, this is it, as the background of the study. When you are talking about the background of study, you must quote somebody who said something about it. And that's what we are talking about in text citation. And how do you do the in-text? In-text, inside the text, that's what it means. In-text citation. When you quote the in-text citation, and by and large, you state the author and the date inside it with parentheses, with bracket. You bracket it. You write the author's surname or author's last name, as you may call it. American language means author's last name. Last name means your surname in Nigerian context. So when you say author's surname, you put comma, then put the date. And that date there should be the year of publication. That is inside citation. Then we're talking about inside citation. We're using APA 6th edition in referencing all our work. When you reference with APA 6th edition, that is the way you must state it. Or less advised by any other thing. But the NUC advised that all the universities and all the higher institutions, not only universities, all the higher institutions, whoever is writing any research, whether you are in a higher institution, everywhere you have to use APA 6th edition. What I mean by APA 6th edition? It's a manual written by the American Psychological Association. They are the people that write how you can use the references. And we advise that this is standard and is systematic. It's a process. So when you are writing a research, you must use APA. As far as we are in Nigeria and you are schooling in Nigeria, you use APA 6th edition. Though 7th edition just came out, but all the people that are already in the existing institution have to use 6th edition until we advise people to. For now, we are using 6th edition. 7th edition just came out recently in this September, this 2020. So, but from the look of the things, the university authority will advise us to use 7th edition when that one comes. But for now, all of us are using 6th edition of the APA, American Psychological Association. That's APA 6th edition, and it must be used for you to reference here. So then the reference inside text reference must be quoted with surname, comma, a date, all in parentheses, all in brackets. When you put the bracket, you close it and put a full stop. That means you are citing an author who wrote something you either in the paragraph or summary or quotation you have mentioned. And when you want to quote, you say, Opin Ademola, open the bracket, Ademola, comma, 2020 or 2019, you close the bracket. Opin that this is that is saying that this is his opinion as regards to what we are writing on your topic. So that people will. Then another thing you can say, according to Ademola, 2020 or 2020, 2019, you said Ademola said that you are quoting what that author said. That is inside referencing in your text. At the end of the whole work, this quotation you have made inside should have a corresponding entry in the reference list at the back and after chapter 5. That's where we normally have reference. After chapter 5, the end of chapter 5, you see reference. That reference is alphabetically, starting from A to Z. So if you have used Ademola and you have used Asika, you know Ademola will come before Asika in your referencing in chronological order, alphabetical order. So if Asika is inside the text, you cited it, you quoted Ademola in the journal, inside text. You quoted so many other, even Ozomba. Whoever you have used in that is not an offense. But at the end of the work, you carry all those, they must have the same corresponding list. You just quote them at the list starting from Ademola, Asika, Benedict, then move to C, from C to D, down to Z. All the people will be there. But in that referencing, it's no longer the same thing. The reference list now contains the surname, comma, initials of those people. That if it's single author, Ademola, comma, 2019, Ademola, comma, AA, Adesoya, Ademola Adesoya, and A. So Ademola, comma, A, dot A, then you put the, then open the bracket, you write date, that is 2019, you close the bracket, then you write the title. When you write the title, you write the location. When you write the location, you write the publisher. That is how to write the reference list. In the reference list, a single author, you have it in that way. If it's more than one author, you write Ademola, comma, AA, dot A, dot A, and then Asika. Then two of them are combined author. You quote them. Then you put, open the bracket, you write the date, 2015, you close it. You write the name of the book or the journal. Then you quote the location. Location is very important. Then the publisher. This idea of writing the location is to know that this book is published in Lagos, this book is published in Enugu, this book is published in Kano. Then the publisher's name, so that if you get to Lagos, you say, where is that the publisher? You'll be able to locate the publisher. Supposing you need a book or need a copy of that book, or you want the publisher to do something for you, you'll be able to locate the publisher, be able to do something for you. You do a business like that, that case to go in. So in that case, when you must have finished with that, be able to get the publisher written down. If it's an Indian author, you must write the location, New Delhi, or anywhere in India, that is the location, then the publisher. It helps to locate the publisher. And the year is very important in everything. Then if there's no dates, that comes with journal. The way you write the journal, in the journal publications you pick from the website, you write the same thing, title, location, then the publisher, then you write the volume, the issue number, then the last thing will be the page number. That's the only difference with the journal and the textbooks. When you write all these things, someone can reference that journal with your citations, with your referencing. Somebody can just pick and say, okay, I'm writing on these things. Let me go use this person's book. You can use your work and as well as that journal. That's the essence of reference. It will help, that's the contribution to knowledge as we're talking about. That's the way we talk and it helps you to get knowledge. Then the appendix. What are we talking about the appendix? The appendix is such a way that when you are writing an appendix, it describes what you have done in the chapters, the tables. In most cases, the appendix is talking about the tables. When you have the tables, you're able to put them. They are mathematical formulas, the statistical formulas, all the computations you have done is in table. When you put them, you go to appendix and put them there. If you have a chart, you have a table, graph, everything you have there, you're able to put it in appendix. The table, the chart, the graphs, even the bar charts, everything has to be in table. But when you're putting them in table at the appendix, make sure you put the source. At the bottom of that table, you put source. You quote where you got these things. Those ones that are authors compilation, you quote authors compilation. Those ones that are not authors compilation, you quote the source of that document. That will help you to know where those things are extracted from. From the extraction, one can just say, okay, I got this from Nigeria Stock Exchange. If I go to Nigeria Stock Exchange, I'll tell them, give me annual report of social date. They'll be able to give you, go to Nigerian Breweries, Nigerian Breweries, source, Nigerian Breweries. Go to Nigerian Breweries. Give me your annual report of social year. You'll be able to pick and check those things. That gives you empirical evidence. That is verifiable things you do. And that's why we're talking about, is it measurable? Is it reasonable? Can we measure it? Can somebody carry out a research on that and get the same thing or something close to it? Because we are quoting all these things in such a way that you are guiding somebody. When you say contribution to knowledge, it's not only your own knowledge. And when you're talking about significant, who is going to benefit from it? So if you are writing all this without saying the source, you are not giving that significance or who is going to benefit from it. Contribution to knowledge means it's going to help this person, it's going to help government, going to help other people that want to write on that. That's why you are putting the source. And if you use a normal distribution, say the source. When you download a normal distribution table or a normal distribution chart, say the source so that somebody can equally, oh, I can do the same thing. I can do a closer thing because I'm using normal distribution test. So these are the things you do in order to get it right. If you don't do it well, it gives us a lot of problem when we are writing or when we are reading your work. Having done that, you have done a good work that will keep you moving. So in referencing, back to referencing, if you have more than 20 people that have done that work, or you are trying to reference, you put all their names with their surname and their initials, as you did in more than one. But if there are more than 20, you are allowed to put that. You're allowed to put that, but you need to ensure that after putting the 19th person, you put dot, 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 about 3 or 4 dots. Open the brackets, put that dot, close the bracket, and you put and the last person. The last, if it's more than 20, and the 19th person, you open the bracket, put dot, 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 close the bracket, and say, and then you write the last person's name, the right surname, Aurora, SN, Aurora, comma, S dot N. You close it, then open the bracket, close the bracket, and write the date. All these authors contributed to the knowledge. That's why we will now include more than 20 authors in reference. When you do that, somebody will really need to know that there are so many contributors to this textbook or to this journal. These are the things you do for you to get it right. Then we now talk about, we now emphasize more on scope. After this scope, we now move to that the areas we need to emphasize, because the reader or the examiner will just go straight to those ones and know whether you are doing the writing or not. Why I want to go back to scope in chapter 1 is because the reader will just go there. What is the scope? Where are you covering? The scope means the area you're covering, the content, the context, and the geographical scope. When the reader or the examiner goes there, he knows whether you're on the track. You set the content, which is talking about the topic, the subject you are going to carry out. When you talk about the subject you are going to carry out, then you will be able to explain the topic, that this is the topic, and the topic will be in the scope. And whenever you're talking about it elsewhere, it gives the reader what it's all about. Likewise, the context. The context is talking about the industry area, because you can't discuss about the whole industry, you just discuss a particular industry, then that will give you the context. The geographical scope will tell you the region. I'm doing it in Lagos, I'm doing it in Enugu, I'm doing it in Calabar, I'm doing it in Kano. That gives the reader, so that when you are deviating, the reader will know that you are deviating. So these are the things you are going to put together. Then we now move to chapter 3. The reader will go to chapter 3. You don't need to go and read all the calculations, because he's not a mathematician. He cannot understand everything you did in mathematical aspect of it, of the analysis. As soon as he goes to chapter 3, he captures what you did in your research work. He talks about research design. The research design describes what you are doing, your aim, what you intend to do, whether it's going to be descriptive or not, or non-descriptive. So when you put that in order, you'll be able to know that this is the actual thing you are getting. So when you say your research is descriptive, is a survey descriptive, or you are carrying out a descriptive survey, that means you are going to describe your survey either by questionnaire, by observation, or by interview method. We're still going to discuss about the questionnaire method and what is involved in the questionnaire method. When you describe that, the person will know that you are talking sense. And when you are not using your description, as you said that you are going to use questionnaire, you go and look at the questionnaire at the back of after the appendix. Appendix comprises of both of the questionnaires. So when you go and look at your questionnaire and there's no questionnaire, and you're saying you are using questionnaire method, no questionnaire method, you are using interview method, and you didn't use interview method, the man will look at the back of your work, at the appendix. Where is the interview method? What of the letter he has written to the organization that is going to come and do interview with them, or observation method you applied? All those things is going to be at the appendix. And when you're talking about that and you didn't see it at there, you describe it at your research design, that you don't have it. That person will say you are out of it. Then the next thing we are now talking about is the source of data. Source of data, where do you get your data? What is data? Data is the datum, that is those things you collected, either numeric or non-numeric. And that will take you to what we call quantitative and qualitative. It depends, when you describe it, you are using quantitative analysis, quantitative aspect of it. Then the person will be looking at it that you are using quantitative and looking at the test statistics you are doing. If your test statistics is against the quantitative, you say you are not doing the right thing. So if you are saying quantitative, then you must use the test statistics for quantitative. If you are using qualitative, you are going to use test statistics for qualitative. This is that's why chapter 3 is very important. You have to explain it very well. So when you say source of data, primary data is talking about using data you collect by questionnaire, observation, interview method. So if you are using primary and secondary, no problem. You now collect your data by interview and extract other ones from the files on the company's files, annual report, or you get to the company, they give you go to their library, pick all their reports. When you pick all these things, you're able to get those things properly. That's the source of data for you. Is that primary or secondary? So if it's secondary,